Hello, folks, and welcome back. We're once again taking a look at Stockholm VGC Regional Championships 2025 edition. We are looking at the second round of day 2. They don't stream the first round, so we don't got that one. We got the second round of day 2, Swiss round 10. And this is going to be a pretty tight match. Once again, we have a matchup that is going to determine who gets to move on, essentially. If you have more than 2 losses, you pretty much have no chance of making it into top cut. And both of these players, Giuseppe Musicco and Alberto Cañuelo, are both at 2 losses. We have a Terrapagos team here taking advantage of the bulkier Terrapagos with that Terra Stellar leftovers, Terra Shell, Terra Starstorm, Calm Mind Substitute, and Protect here, paired with Rillaboom to set grassy terrain to give this Terrapagos maximum recovery. Fake out Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, and U-Turn along with that Assault Vest and Terra Grass to get some more grass type damage from the Rillaboom. Incineroar also here with the Rocky Helmet, Terra Ghost, knockoff Will-O-Wisp, Fake Out, and Parting Shot. Super utility base with some good knockoff support damage. Screamtail as well, we've been seeing a lot of it. Play Rough, Encore, Disable, Protect with that Booster Energy, Terra Grass. Ogerpon and Heatran round things out here. Heatran, I believe, is going to be that Zoom Lens. We'll take it, we'll see it in a bit. But standard moveset on that Heatran, Magma Storm, Heavy Slam, Earth Power, and Protect, and then Ogerpon with that Ivy Cudgel and Power Whip. On the other side of things, for Alberto, we have a Calyrex team here featuring Smeargle and Clefairy. Calyrex with Astral Barrage, Giga Drain, Nasty Plot, and Protect with that Terra Grass to boost up the Giga Drain and Life Orb. Rillaboom here is Terra Fire with the Assault Vest, same 4 moves, just in a bit of a different order. Smeargle here, an additional Fake Out user with Terra Ghost Focus Sash, as well as Follow Me, Wide Guard, and Spore. Clefairy to give some additional support with Friend Guard to reduce damage taken with Terra Ground, Eviolite, Follow Me, Helping Hand after you, and Protect after you. A pretty interesting move there. Tornadoes here with Covert Cloak, Terra Dark, so it can't get hit by Fake Out and can avoid taunts. Bleakwind Storm with Taunt of its own, Rain Dance, and Tailwind. And then Urshifu rounds things out here with that Mystic Water, Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet, and Detect, the most standard moveset that we have seen. Tornadus there pairs really well with the Urshifu, setting the Rain Dance and giving Surging Strikes an additional damage boost. So yeah, on that other side, for Giuseppe, notably, Heatran is Citrus Berry. We've sometimes seen Zoom Lens on that Heatran to try to make Magma Storm a little bit more accurate. That is the most popular move. But we're getting right into this game here, and Alberto leading with a very aggressive lead of Calyrex plus Clefairy, and Giuseppe leading Terrapagos and Incineroar. So Giuseppe probably feels pretty good about this lead. Incineroar can fake out the Clefairy if it wants to desperately, but both of Giuseppe's Pokemon feel really, really good into this Shadow Rider. Alberto could potentially go for the Terra Grass in the face of this Incineroar and start clicking Giga Drain, which would be a very interesting move. Again, this Incineroar cannot go for any super effective damage into a grass type. We could still see a knockoff to take off that Life Orb, and Giuseppe could potentially be reading a Fake Out, or Giuseppe could be reading the Terastallization and be going for Fake Out into that Calyrex, but that is not what we see. We just see a nasty plot here in the face of that Incineroar with the potential knockoff. Clefairy does go for the Follow Me, though. Terrapagos goes for the Calm Mind, so both of the restricted Pokemon going for their boosting moves here. Incineroar, knock off on to the, okay, it is going to be into the Clefairy here. It's going to knock off the Eviolite, do a little bit of damage, but nothing too much. Now, this Calyrex still not feeling all that good, but Clefairy can just keep clicking knockoff. It doesn't mind doing that too much. The main thing it has to worry about now is Terrapagos going for a Terra Starstorm. Terrapagos right now does not want to Terastallize. It wants to preserve that Terra Shell to reduce any incoming damage as much as possible. For Giuseppe, whoop, excuse me, spit went down the wrong way. So for Giuseppe, a lot of what this team wants to do is take advantage of Terra Shell, the ability Terra Shell on Terrapagos. It's built around it, recovering health on the Terrapagos, allowing Terra Shell to reactivate. Again, if you're familiar with Shadow Shield, or if you are familiar with Multi-Scale, a very similar ability, but it essentially distorts the type matchups going into it. So Astral Barrage coming through, it's not going to affect the Terrapagos at all. It is still a normal type. It's going to do some into the Incineroar, even with this +2 Nasty Plot, though. Wow, that does a lot more than I was expecting. So Incineroar tanking a ton of damage. Terrapagos gets another Calm Mind boost off. This thing is going to be very, very hard to take down for Alberto, unless, of course, Urshifu is able to get in here. Knockoff doing even less to the Clefairy here. So Giuseppe is getting a little bit of damage out, but Incineroar now incredibly low, and Terrapagos, while it is getting some good boosts, if Giuseppe goes for the Terastallization, that is going to take away the Terra Shell ability. Giuseppe is still at +2 on the special defense, so it's not as worried about Calyrex doing a ton of damage with that potential Giga Drain, but this Clefairy is posing a major problem here. For Giuseppe, you could just not Terrastalize, like we said before, and go for a Terra Starstorm into the Clefairy, not having to use your Terrastalization yet. I imagine a +2 Terra Starstorm probably takes it out from this point, especially without an Eviolite, but we'd have to see. And we do see Rillaboom now make an appearance for Giuseppe, and Incineroar going on the retreat here. And Alberto now, or actually, no, I think this is Giuseppe. Giuseppe, I believe, is going for the Terrastalization. Yeah, going for it right off the rip here. So that is going to be minus a Terra Shell plus the Terra Shift for Terrapagos here. So this grassy terrain that just got set is going to be going away. But Giuseppe, not too worried about that since you don't have the Terra Shell anymore. That is going to be a Helping Hand from the Clefairy here. Helping Hand Giga Drain could be interesting from the Shadow Rider, but it is just going to be the Astral Barrage. So it'll be a good amount into the Rillaboom, even with this Assault Vest still, especially with that Helping Hand boost, and it just takes Rillaboom down. Right now, Alberto is going with the a relatively tried and true strategy versus Terrapagos teams, which is just ignore the Terrapagos and take down all of its opponents. You'll deal with the Terrapagos later. The Terra Starstorm is going to come out. This will hit both Pokemon. Terra Starstorm is now a Stellar type move, no longer a normal type move. It should take out, ooh, it doesn't take out the Calyrex. That Friend Guard doing a lot of work from Clefairy there. It does finally fall, but Giuseppe now not in the best of spots with the Shadow Rider still on the field and able to dish out quite a bit of damage. So Giuseppe bringing in the Ogerpon here, can potentially go for Follow Me, and Alberto bringing in the Smeargle. That's a very, very big choice. It's going to guarantee that Calyrex might even be able to get another turn of damage off. Both Terrapagos and Ogerpon, of course, can go for protecting moves here, guaranteeing that this Smeargle isn't going to be able to get too much work done. But this Smeargle also notably has Wide Guard, so this Terrapagos wouldn't even be able to do anything with Terra Starstorm. This is a big thing that we have seen with Terrapagos specifically, is that a lot of times it will only have that one attacking move in the Terra Starstorm. And when that is the case, if you have something with Wide Guard like this Smeargle here, it can completely block this Terrapagos from being able to do anything. Smeargle does also have Spore, and with that Moody speed boost, Terrapagos also already having gone for a Protect, there is a very good chance that Spore is just going to come out from this Smeargle and put Terrapagos to bed. That's going to give Calyrex, again, even more wiggle room here. Calyrex is going to be outspeeding everything that Giuseppe has. The only thing that Alberto really has to worry about is what this Ogerpon is going to do. Ogerpon could definitely take out the Shadow Rider, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that Urshifu in the back. Again, it has a great matchup into Terrapagos. Well, not a great matchup. Surging Strikes doesn't really like going up against Terra Shell, but the Spore comes through. The Follow Me is required from that Ogerpon here, and Calyrex goes for the Giga Drain, taking Ogerpon down to a single HP. This Calyrex is incredibly, incredibly bulky, but I think without that Friend Guard, it should be going down to a Terra Starstorm here. Alberto, again, could have potentially gone for the Wide Guard, but it is Substitute coming out for Giuseppe. I think Giuseppe was potentially trying to read the Wide Guard on that turn, but with that coming through, I'm now quite worried, I think, if I am Giuseppe, because Smeargle can now just go for Wide Guard. Your Ogerpon's at 1 HP. Calyrex can guarantee take it down. And even if, as this Terrapagos, you're able to KO the Shadow Rider, again, you still have to worry about what is in the back. You know, the Substitute does not have Terra Shell. That's one of the incredibly powerful things about Terrapagos, is it can give the Substitute essentially Terra Shell. We see the Spiky Shield come through, so Ogerpon should survive for one more turn, but Wide Guard comes through, and Terrapagos can't get any damage through this. This is the worry if you are Giuseppe. Wide Guard alone just stops your team from being able to do anything. And with that Protect coming through, or the Spiky Shield coming through for the Ogerpon, there's no significant damage coming out. It would be going down one way or another, quite frankly, but this is an absolutely pivotal piece of the puzzle for Alberto, this Wide Guard. Wide Guard does a lot. It does a lot of work into opposing Shadow Riders. It does a lot of work into opposing Ice Riders. But the main thing is, it is just so hard to work around as a Terrapagos player when you have already Terrastalized. So, Giuseppe reading the writing on the wall here. Smeargle going to just keep clicking Wide Guard, and your main damage dealer, really your only damage dealer, cannot get it done. Alberto can just keep clicking Giga Drain over and over, and Giuseppe takes a loss in game number 1 here. Alberto Cañuelo feeling pretty good about that. That's personally, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. I love Terrapagos. I've been using Terrapagos quite a bit. Coming up against a Wide Guard player is extremely difficult to navigate. You have to find the right time to Terra when you are playing Terrapagos. it is so key because you just get absolutely shut out by wide guard. It's not even close. And so I think if you are Giuseppe there, terastallizing is such a huge risk. You know that Smeargle has wide guard. You don't know that Smeargle is there, but you know that Smeargle has wide guard. And there are definitely opportunities where you can potentially save your Terra, use it later. Maybe your Ogerpon needs to be dealing some, big damage later in the game. Maybe your Rillaboom wants to go for that Terra Grass to get some good grassy glide damage in if it survives. But Terapagos potentially going for single target Terra Starstorms could have been the big thing. You don't necessarily mind taking Giga Drains from the Shadow Rider in that 1v1 as Terapagos, and if you can just take down the Shadow Rider support Pokemon and the things next to Shadow Rider, then you might have the way to win the game. But when that Terastallization comes through and Terra Starstorm becomes a spread move, it becomes that much more difficult. So going into game number 2 here, I'm interested to see what Giuseppe alternates to, or what Giuseppe pivots to in terms of strategy. If we're going to see a different Terastallization, or if we're going to see the same thing come out. Alberto does make a change up here, and it is going to be the Shadow Rider plus the Smeargle, and Giuseppe making no changes here, bringing the Incineroar and the Terapagos once again. So Terapagos and Incineroar, again, feel pretty good up against a Calyrex, at least in these initial turns. Smeargle does have the opportunity to go for Spore, but Fake Out plus Terra Starstorm should take it out on this turn. That said, you're not going to be able to guarantee stay ahead of the tempo of the game if the Shadow Rider gets to go for a nasty plot. So what is the call if you are Giuseppe? There's also a very, very interesting world where Alberto off rip goes for a Giga Drain on the Shadow Rider. That'd be a little bit, I think that is a strange world. Mostly when you're doing those draining moves, you want that to be a little bit later in the game when Calyrex has already taken damage. So I doubt we're going to see that on this first turn. But again, if you're worried about knockoff, you don't have redirection from this Smeargle here. Its best move would be to go for that Fake Out. And Giuseppe is already... Hold on, I'll save my excitement for when we actually see it. Giuseppe going for the swap here, Rillaboom making its way back out onto the battlefield. It's not going to go down to a Astral Barrage on this turn, pretty much guaranteed. The Shadow Rider should be able to get a nasty plot off here, though, if that is what Alberto is going for. We could see something pretty similar. We do see the Smeargle going for a Terastallization of its own, though, going into the Terra Ghost. So it would not be able to get hit by Fake Out. I'm reading this as Alberto is probably going for a Fake Out into the Terapagos. We see Giuseppe going for that Terastallization of his own. The Incineroar already swapped out. That means that this turtle is going for the Terra right off the bat. Quite frankly, I am shocked. I personally would have gone the other way, but Giuseppe deciding that instead of slowing things down and taking it one Pokemon at a time, he wants to try to get as much damage out onto the field as possible. So when the nasty plot comes through for the Shadow Rider, it is going to be taking a Terra Starstorm here. I don't know if a neutral Terra Starstorm is going to do enough. Spore comes through, and it was going into the Rillaboom. That would have been terrible for Giuseppe. But instead, this Terra Starstorm goes off. It's going to be super effective into the Smeargle since it Terastallized here. Should take down to its Sash, but Calyrex takes that like an absolute champ. Smeargle now has the ability to Wide Guard. It doesn't really have to worry about Fake Out. It doesn't have to worry about Grassy Glide. So once again, Alberto can click Wide Guard, and Calyrex can start going for Astral Barrages again. It doesn't necessarily want to have to take too many more of these Terra Starstorms, but it won't have to over these next couple of turns. It could, we already know that from this spot, Astral Barrage does KO Rillaboom. It might be a roll, but I wouldn't be surprised if it just does enough damage outright. And now Giuseppe is in a very similar spot as game number 1, but honestly, it feels even worse. Alberto, though, going for the switch, Smeargle retreating, and his own Rillaboom making its way onto the battlefield. Grassy terrain once again getting set. This would be crazy if Giuseppe clicked Grassy Glide here, but I doubt that's what we're going to see. Calyrex just goes for the Protect here, is going to stay at relatively decent health, get a little bit of healing up. Terapagos goes for the Protect as well, not wanting to get hit with a potential Spore coming out, and Giuseppe goes for the U-turn into the Rillaboom. So I'm interested to see what comes back out. Incineroar might be the Pokemon of choice. There is no more redirection, but there is still a Fake Out available from this Rillaboom for Alberto. Now, Incineroar back onto the field. Intimidate comes through. That's going to mitigate a little bit of the Rillaboom's damage output, but that shouldn't be too much of what Alberto is worried about. The Fake Out here is going to be the big thing going for that flinch, especially since Terapagos has already gone for the Protect here. And with Calyrex, again, already at +2, we could potentially see a Fake Out from the Rillaboom into the Incineroar, and then a Okay, so yeah, fake out from the Rillaboom into the Incineroar here. Another Astral Barrage. I don't think it shouldn't take out Incineroar from this spot. And again, it won't affect the Terapagos yet, but Alberto felt pretty confident about that in the last game of just ignoring the Terapagos. And again, it doesn't have any boosts here. So once there's a couple of attacks into it, it should go down relatively easily. And we do see the Calm Mind finally coming out for Giuseppe, understanding that he needs to get some special attack boosts more than anything here. Rillaboom does still have Grassy Glide as an option. I don't know if that takes out Incineroar from this range, but it is certainly a threat. And this Calyrex is still going to be the fastest thing on the field. So it can go for a Astral Barrage once again. Nothing that Giuseppe has is going to be able to tank it other than an Ogerpon, which would survive on 1 HP, and that doesn't even feel all that good, especially if Alberto can just go for something like a U-turn of his own. So Incineroar going to retreat for Giuseppe here. It'd be guaranteed to go down, and Rillaboom is coming in as the sacrifice. Again, we saw it go down previously. Might be a roll, but looking pretty likely that this Rillaboom is once again going to fall. And for Alberto, that could mean a pretty clean Wood Hammer into the opposing Terapagos. It was indeed a roll. Rillaboom survives this time around here. Terra Starstorm comes out once again. Still spread move. I'm interested to see how well this Rillaboom takes it on Alberto's side here. Calyrex should go down to, wow, into the red here, and Rillaboom doesn't tank it all that well. U-turn does come out, taking out Giuseppe's Rillaboom, and Alberto gets to swap out either into Smeargle or into Pokemon number 4. Alberto once again taking the Pokemon lead in this game. So what is going to come in for Alberto is the big question. Alberto has to bring in a Pokemon. Giuseppe gets to respond to that, essentially. Incineroar coming in doesn't feel too great for Giuseppe, I think. Again, you're going to go down to this Calyrex before you can make much use of it. You have the opportunity to go for Fake Out, but Smeargle already in the back there with the Terra Ghost isn't really going to have to worry about that too much, and that is what we see it make its way on to the battlefield. For Alberto, there's a pretty big read here where Ogerpon could potentially be making its way on to the battlefield, which would guarantee that Spore isn't doing anything here. But for Smeargle, you can just go for Fake Out into the Terapagos as well. Another Astral Barrage from this Shadow Rider that feels pretty comfortable if you are Alberto. Again, that's not going to necessarily be the outright game-winning move, but it's going to do quite a bit of work. And Calyrex, notably, there could be a world here for Alberto where you go Fake Out into the Terapagos, and I think you just Giga Drain into the Ogerpon. We saw that do a ton of damage previously and get a good amount of healing done. I don't know if it would be enough to survive a Terra Starstorm, but it could be enough to tip the balance of this game even more into Alberto's favor. Again, we still haven't seen Pokemon number 4 yet, and I think as soon as we do, that might really tell us just how much of a pickle Giuseppe is in. Again, this Terra Ghost from the Smeargle is really, really tough for Giuseppe to deal with. Having Fake Out would have been so nice. We see the Protect from the Terapagos here. I think that means we're not going to see Spiky Shield. We do see a Wide Guard from the Smeargle, notably. Again, guaranteeing that Terra Starstorm isn't going to be able to do anything here, and Giga Drain into that Ogerpon, going to be restoring a good amount of HP into that Shadow Rider. Ogerpon going to be going for an Ivy Cudgel here, I imagine. Will that be enough to take out the potential Calyrex Shadow Rider? There is some Life Orb damage. Actually, who is this targeting? If it's targeting Smeargle, that could be good. Smeargle does go down. Critical hit. Woo! Feels pretty good, but that means no more Wide Guard for Alberto. That said, Rillaboom can still make its way on to the battlefield, and Rillaboom means Fake Out, means Grassy Glide. There's still a couple more turns of this grassy terrain. So Giuseppe, Incineroar, and Ogerpon down incredibly low. Terapagos has a single special attack and special defense boost, and only a few more Terra Starstorms. That's one of the other big things about only having Terra Starstorm as your attacking move against something that has good recovery with this Shadow Rider. You only have a few turns to take this thing down. And so right now, Giuseppe might end up in a spot where either Alberto gets to play for time and wins slowly but surely, or we could see some pretty fun things in regards to a struggle. Now, Alberto thinking things through here. Again, time is a potential option if you're Alberto here. I think that's something you could play to, not necessarily that you want to. Again, the more turns that you potentially give Giuseppe, if that is your end goal, the more chances that there are for him to win. And that is the 4th Pokemon. That is the worst thing for Giuseppe to see in this scenario. Urshifu absolutely brutal into this Terapagos without the Terra Shell. Surging Strikes does so much work. And to top it all off, this thing is fast. Ogerpon cannot do anything in the face of this. It can go for Follow Me to mitigate the amount of damage into the Terapagos, but Calyrex can also just go for a Draining Kiss. That's the usual one, but Giga Drain. And Giga Drain here plus Surging Strikes Ogerpon should go down either way. Spiky Shield comes through. Alberto does not even have to target the Ogerpon. Ogerpon is hardly even a threat here. Aqua Jet can come through and take it out absolutely cleanly. And this is where we can get Giga Drain out of the Shadow Rider here. That should do more than enough damage to heal up Shadow Rider out of potential Terra Starstorm range. Urshifu should tank this all right, even at +1 for this Terapagos. So that's going to be the big thing here. Terra Starstorm comes out. Do we see a critical hit? That could decide the game here. Critical hit, super important. No, both Pokemon survive. Both Pokemon tank it incredibly well. Both Pokemon can go for Protect, and on this next turn with a combination of Giga Drain and Surging Strike, or on the turn after what's coming up, after Protects are gone, combination of Surging Strikes plus Giga Drain should end up locking Alberto into the next round. So, Incineroar does get to make its way onto the battlefield. Intimidate doesn't feel the worst, I guess, and you have the opportunity to go for Fake Out. But again, both of Alberto's Pokemon can simply go for Protect and Detect here, respectively. Terapagos, I think your best bet might be to click Calm Mind. Substitute isn't that bad, but that is just going to be dealing a quarter of your HP to yourself, which is exactly what Giga Drain would do. I guess the Shadow Rider doesn't get to heal up as much, is the big thing here. So does Alberto, now this is the question, does Alberto want to try to stay aggressive here or just go for the double Protect? I wouldn't be surprised to see a double Protect. It's quite frankly the safest play. Actually, you don't have to go for a double Protect. You can just Protect on the Urshifu technically, and then you can go for Astral Barrage if you want to on the Shadow Rider. That might be enough to do it, but Alberto actually gets a different read here and brings the Rillaboom back in. I think this is actually a much smarter play. The Detect on the Urshifu, it doesn't feel all that great, and it limits your close combat damage. So grassy terrain back and active, keeping this Shadow Rider in tip-top shape. Giga Drain does more than enough to the Incineroar. You get a little bit more health back as this Shadow Rider, and we already saw Giuseppe, considering the previous moves, this Terapagos now in a really tough 1v3 here. Substitute coming through finally. This move, gosh, it feels great when it works. It feels great when you can get it up with that Terra Shell. It feels great when you have good support around it, but when it's all you've got going into these final turns of a game, Substitute just feels underwhelming. Giuseppe now having to deal with a really bulky, really tanky team with a ton of damage that it can put out. This Alberto Shadow Rider squad doing a ton of work. Giuseppe's best choice here is to try to heal up with Terapagos a little bit more. You are allowing your opponent to heal up as well, but heal up some and then try to get some big hits with Terra Starstorm. Some crits here are going to be absolutely necessary. Again, this Shadow Rider has, with access to Giga Drain, is going to be able to do so much work. We see the Protect here come out. Rillaboom is going to be able to go for a potential Wood Hammer here, I think. Terapagos is going for Protect as well. Pretty big, both Pokemon staying relatively defensive here. I'm interested to see if this is a Grassy Glide or a Wood Hammer from the Rillaboom. It is a Grassy Glide, hoping to break the Substitute and allow Shadow Rider to potentially get a Giga Drain in on the next turn. So Calyrex healing up even a little bit more here. Terapagos is essentially going to be back up to where it was before the Substitute, right? Like, that doesn't feel too bad, but you could have gotten more damage out previously. And with this Rillaboom being Assault Vest, with this Calyrex being quite bulky here, those turns of healing might be what send Giuseppe home. So what are we going to see? Grassy Glide plus Giga Drain are going to do a ton of work. We don't see the Grassy Glide, actually. It is going to just be Giga Drain starting off with this Substitute, and the Substitute goes down. Rillaboom, Wood Hammer here, wouldn't be too shocked to see that. Again, Calyrex gets even more healing done. We're going to see the Terra Starstorm here coming out in just a second here. Yeah, it's coming out before the Rillaboom gets a chance to attack. That might mean that Rillaboom goes down here before it gets a chance to move. Grassy Glide could have been big. I don't know if that takes down, but Rillaboom just barely survives. I think you needed that to be a KO if you were Alberto. And Calyrex surviving as well. Again, even just one crit here could have been enough to send it home. And with those additional turns of healing that we just saw Alberto able to take, both of those Pokemon would have been in range of that Terra Starstorm in the previous turns. But the question for Giuseppe would have been, how much damage does Surging Strikes do to this Terapagos? But now that Terapagos is essentially left out in the open, vulnerable, going to be taking damage from two of these Pokemon, we're going to have to see a little bit of luck. How much damage can it take? Giga Drain takes down to 53, and that is not going to be enough health. Alberto, all he has to do is click a single button here, Surging Strikes or Close Combat. Either one is going to do it for this Urshifu, and Terapagos goes down under a flurry of blows. Alberto Cañuelo moving on, and Giuseppe Musicco no longer going to be able to make it into the top cut. That was a pretty exciting matchup in that we got to kind of see the range of ways that Terapagos can get answered. It is hard. Look, it's hard out here being a Terapagos player, right? Wide guard, you only have 8 turns to actually like do damage with your Terra Starstorm. You can barely hit Shadow Rider at all. It's tough work. It's tough work out here, but Giuseppe making it into day 2, almost making it into that top cut. Still a very phenomenal run. But our next video, we're going to be looking at top 32 here at Stockholm. So keep an eye out for it. And until next time, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.